Hello, and welcome to the Earthly Roots podcast,
where we chat all things gardening, homesteading, and connecting to nature.
We're your hosts, Diane and Robyn.
The Earthly Roots podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Hope you've got yourselves a cup of tea and you're ready for another episode of the Earthly Roots podcast. It's going to be a great one today. I'm joined with my co-host, Robyn.
Hello, nice to be back again.
Yes, it's so good to chat to you guys on this lovely autumn morning. It's a nice cool one. The sun's hiding behind some clouds, and I think it's just going to be a great conversation today, which we're going to be talking all about the equipment and the things that you have to have as a gardener and a homesteader. And this isn't us trying to sell you things or tell you what you should or shouldn't have, but they're just our go-to things that we haven't been able to do without. If you're not sure, right now I'm downsizing for bus life, and the prospect of having to sell off some of these things has been really daunting because I know we're going to need them in the future. So it's been a bit of a back and forth trying to figure out what is worth keeping, what we just need to get rid of, and what we will definitely be buying again once we're back.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm kind of doing the opposite by accumulating things to build a flower farm. So I've definitely accumulated a few tools and gardening supplies, I suppose. So I'm kind of going to bring more of like the gardening side to this conversation, and a lot of the homesteading side, and also what you've learnt from your property here as well, because you did raise animals, you had a garden, you've pretty much done the typical homesteading thing. Yeah. So I think we've had a few years of just trial and error of different equipment and supplies that we feel like may be useful. And again, that we don't want to talk about consumerism too much, but we do think there are a few good quality tools and supplies that may help you on your homesteading and gardening journey that we'll chat through today.
Yeah, if anything, it's the opposite of consumerism, because instead of going and buying all this useless stuff that a lot of people might suggest, or whether you're not sure of if you're going to need something or not, this is going to be like that comprehensive list of like these things we actually used, we actually love, and to do without them would make life so much harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's get like right into it.
We both have a few lists.
Yes, we do. So I guess we will kind of like jump between them and chat through things if we need to. But let's start with the garden, because that's one thing that we have in common no matter where our goals take us. The garden is at the heart of what we do. So some of the basic tools that you need for your veggie garden or your flower garden.
Well, the first one on the top of my list is good working boots.
Yes.
And that are actually comfortable and practical. For me, I'm going inside and out of the house like all day. We don't really have like a mud room or somewhere where, I can kind of take clothes off and boots off. So I'm just literally slipping them on and off as I'm going in and outside. So I like boots that you can really easily take on and off. So the boots that I have are, I got gifted some Merry People boots from Scott's mum for my birthday the other year.
Oh, I love those.
And they are, they're not only really pretty, so they actually make me want to wear them. And I wear them outside of the garden as well. But they're really comfortable. They're really well insulated, and they're really easy to just slip on and off. So that's the boots that I personally really like. They're a little bit more pricey, but this is something that I don't mind spending a little bit more money. I've got those as well as your typical Bunnings gumboots that I wear more on like when I'm doing bush regeneration work, where I need them to come up to my knees because I have a little bit of a phobia of leeches. And I'm not about leeches.
The first time you come to our property, we walk through our bush block and you get leeches all over you.
That was a little bit scarring, But sometimes I'll even tip for you all that one of the people I work with, Alison, told me that's great for leeches is actually to spray your gum boots or your boots with WD-40. and they
Oh.
don't like climbing up. Yeah.
Interesting.
It was game changing for me. And anyone who kind of knows who works with me knows that I really don't like leeches. So as soon as I found that out, I carry a bottle of WD-40, which I do anyway for all of the tools. That's another thing that I'd recommend, WD-40, and spray my boots like just a ring around your boots. Wow. And the leeches don't like climbing up them.
I need to use that. Last year, especially around our property with all the rains, the leeches were out of control.
So bad.
Did I ever tell you, I mean, this is way off track, but did
Sorry,
I ever
we'll
tell
go
you the
to
story of when I got leeches on me and I went to school?
No.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, but I have to share.
Okay.
So that year when we had like all of the flooding and like the rains were out of control, like rains every single day through summer. I went for a bushwalk with the dogs before school, as I do, and unknown to me, I went to school, and while I was hanging things up on the walls in my classroom, a leech was on the ground, and I was like, oh, that's so odd. Like, and it was massive. And I was like, oh, that's so odd. Maybe one of the kids carried in a leech. Like, that's so strange. I don't remember any kids being in here, but whatever. And so I picked it up and I threw it out. And then I was like, hold on. Like, are they on me? And then, like, I looked down at my ankle and there was 2 other leeches on there. And just, yeah, like, my leg was covered at school and I was just bleeding everywhere, all over the carpet. Like, it was the worst. And I haven't seen any this year.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've seen a few like where I've been working around creeks, but I think coming into winter they seem to calm down a little bit. But oh my goodness, they have been so fat this year and big, and like the really big ones with the orange stripes. Anyway, we'll stop talking about leeches.
But WD-40, get it.
Yeah, get that and some good old DEET, even though it's not good for your skin and whatever. But that's just something like I cannot deal with ticks, leeches, mosquitoes. I've been in places with, the really horrible mosquito viruses, and it's something just like I know people who have had dengue fever, Balmer, Ross River.
Yeah,
I don't want to take any chances. Yeah, so I always do really protect myself from that and any viruses that you might get from ticks around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's getting off to a great start.
No, that's all right. No, it's good. I love it. So gumboots are definitely on our list as well. I have gumboots that are just from the op shop and they're not that comfortable, but the fact that they can easily be slipped on, as you said, is so convenient when you're just coming in and out of the house. Sam also has work boots that are like the Cat brand, but they have the zip on the side. So instead of having to undo the laces to put them on, it's just really nice and quick and easy for him as well. Yeah. Another like go-to gardening tool, I know that there are so many different types of tools for cultivating your gardens and for working them, but I think the go-to, like the 3 most useful things that I've used to establish our gardens, but then also maintain them, is a pitchfork, a hoe, and a shovel.
Yeah.
Like your pitchfork is going to be your best friend for aerating the soil. It's also going to help you to move compost around and wood chips around. I just love our pitchfork. I think that's been my favorite tool, like even raking up like leaves and things and just moving things around. Like there's so many ways that you can use a pitchfork that it's no wonder that so many paintings and photos of farmers have like a pitchfork in their hands.
Yeah. So is that just like the 3-pronged one?
Yeah, or 4.
Yeah.
Like a giant fork.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a fork is the most useful cutlery tool when you're eating,
True.
in my opinion. So might as well use it in the garden.
Yeah, I definitely have quite a few forks and ones that I have definitely bent as well. So definitely recommend like investing
Mine's
in.
out of control.
I know.
Have you seen mine? People comment on my
Really?
pitchfork being like, girl, you need a new one. And I'm
Yikes.
like, it's fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, something that I did want to invest in, I actually researched like the company that I got this from because I wanted to let you know, is a broad fork. But a really good quality one. So
you were so excited when you got yours. I remember the day.
Yeah, I really searched really wide to find a really good quality Australian made broad fork. So this is, if you don't know what a broad fork is, it's like a massive pitchfork kind of thing, but you actually stand on it, and then so you stand on it to work it into the ground, and then you kind of like lean back with it while you're standing on it, and it lifts up the soil a little bit. So it's used a lot in market gardens and in a lot of like no dig, no till kind of market farms, because you're not really turning the soil over. All you're doing is trying to aerate the soil.
Loosen it. Yeah.
And I found like I only have to do this maybe once or twice in a bed, and then I don't have to do it really any more times after that, because it really does break up the soil. And particularly for us, we have really clay soil. So I needed something like this because it was just like rock hard, the soil, and you couldn't actually have plants send their roots out properly.
And that's because your Oma had a dairy cow, did she? Or
No, it's just it's just been walked on a lot, like the property
and the grass too.
and the grass. Yeah, it's just really tampered the whole soil down. There was a veggie patch there previously, but with people just walking all over it, you'd be surprised at how compact the soil can get.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're not having trees or grasses, like grasses with a bit more established root systems than your lawn grass or anything that can break up the soil. It's just over time going to get really compact. So I ended up going with a broad fork from FD Ryan Traditional Australian Made Garden Tools. It's a company, and I love it. Like, it's really, really amazing. So I got the one with 7 tines, which is 7 like prongs on it. So it's pretty much 80 centimeters or so, which is kind of like the size of my garden beds. So I just have to work that up and down the rows rather than having to do it multiple times on the row. I wanted one that was about the same size as the garden beds. So
perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would definitely recommend this company, and it's not sponsored or anything, but definitely wouldn't mind. But yeah, it's made with really good ingredients.
Ingredients. We talked about forks, so
we're still not awake yet. It's made with really good materials. I'm trying to search up exactly what it is. It just says heavy duty steel, so I'm assuming that's what it's all made of.
Yeah, and steel lasts.
And it hasn't rusted as well. That was what I was a bit wary about, because we're so close to the coast. So we get kind of that sea spray occasionally. But yeah, it's really, really good quality. So I definitely recommend if you're interested, even if you do have just a garden.
Well, I've seen Justin Rhodes using it. I mean, he claims that it's the best exercise that he can ever get, because he just jumps on it and he works his garden. And like you said, it's really good for big gardens and getting it done nice and quick.
All right, next one. What's on your list?
Yeah, one thing that I guess is quite a simple thing and yet is underrated is wheelbarrows and buckets. I mean, we've gone through so many buckets. Like, we always need them, especially raising animals, having gardens. You'd be surprised by the amount of times you need a bucket for something, whether you need to pick up rubbish that's blown off the porch, whether you're carrying wood chips or compost around, collecting animal droppings from chicken coops and carrying it over to the compost pile or the garden. During like chicken butcherings as well, it's super handy to have them. All the things. It's just a bucket is necessary. And I think one of the first investments we made was getting like 4 or 5 of those 20-litre white buckets, food grade from our local hardware store. And yeah, that's just been a game changer. And the wheelbarrow, similarly, you can just load it up with so many things, and the wheel just helps you to carry it across surfaces easier. Like, we're on a lot of slopes, and so having that wheel is just really manageable.
Yeah, we're on a little bit more of a flat ground rather than like, it's not really rocky or anything, so I find a cart is easier for us to kind of just pull along. It's just like it's a plastic cart with kind of, I think it's plastic wheels as well.
Is it called like a gorilla cart or something?
Yeah, but it's not like the 4-wheel drive cart. So I've tried the wheelbarrow around, and I just find it's not as easy as just pulling a cart around. And I'm pretty sure we got this secondhand as well. Picked it up secondhand. Yeah, no, it's worked amazing, and it's great because the tires don't puncture, so I don't have to worry about changing the tire on the wheelbarrow as well. So yeah, that's been really great for us.
We definitely have had a few punctured wheels, now that you say that, and that's been difficult. It's like trying to trudge it along. I can do it.
But you kind of need something like that for like here to have
Yeah.
a little bit more, I don't know, four-wheel driveness of a wheelbarrow.
Well, no, I feel like a cart would work really well. We just haven't had any secondhand around us, and we haven't wanted to invest that money into it. But I've definitely seen the usefulness of it.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. Did you want to go with one of yours next?
Sure. So another one I definitely think is an essential and probably something that I would recommend starting at the start, and that's a compost bin or a worm farm. And starting really simple if you've never had a compost bin or worm farm before and these you can just find on Facebook Marketplace. Don't go buy something new at the start. Have a look on there. You can find them for like $20 or so. And just try it out. We've done a whole episode on composting, so you can listen to that if you're new to gardening and composting.
And we talked all about like the different types of compost systems you can have, whether you have a large space, a small space, in an apartment, in a rural property. So there's definitely so many options, and it's not stinky, so don't get overwhelmed by that, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can suit your lifestyle.
Yeah, because I think you just want to build up your own source of nutrients for the garden and fertilizer. So building a compost bin, whether it's like a bay that you put together with pallets, or I really, really like all of the tumbleweed products, the worm farms and their bins that are basically like a big, I don't know how to describe it. They're just like an open base bin.
It's like an upside down bin.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's got a lid, so you just lift the lid up and pop all your food scraps and cardboard and whatever in there to break down. And I'd recommend just doing this even before you start your garden, or even if you don't want to get something like this, you can just start burying like food scraps in the ground, like whatever works for you. But I definitely recommend something where you can source your own nutrients, because it does take time to build that up. And once you have that, it's wonderful for the garden, and you're saving money on fertilizers and bringing things in.
Yeah, and if you've ever looked at people's gardens and been like, oh my gosh, how does their garden look so incredible compared to mine? It's most likely because for the last 7 years, they've just accumulated compost, accumulated food scraps, and put it all straight back onto the garden. And then 7 years in, of course, it's going to look incredible. So if you're still feeling disheartened looking at your garden, wondering why things aren't balanced, why things aren't working, keep at it, get a compost system, and it'll get there.
Definitely.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I raise a lot of animals on our homestead, or I have in the past, and I'm now having to get rid of them and find them new homes. But one thing that has been incredible for looking after animals and being able to manage them around the homestead is I think it's Thunderbird electric netting is what we have locally to us. So it's just that orange square netting, and it's poultry netting, as well as a Gallagher energizer. Currently we have the S100 energizer, but we've also had the S40, which is the one step down, and both work really well. So it stays energized.
Sorry, is that solar as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
it's a solar energizer. The netting is just a plastic material, but it's super sturdy. It's really easy to poke like the poles into the ground, and there's been so many moments where we've grazed our animals over different areas, and having that netting has been game changing. It is a little bit tough to use on slopes, and in our bush block we have a lot of like sticks and things that can sometimes get caught in the netting. So I would recommend the netting more so for flat ground, or if you're not moving it through the forested areas. If you do have forests or slopes like we do in a lot of areas, then Gallagher also has like this wire, it's got like wire fencing that it's a lot more portable, and you can put it between poles. I think it is a little dearer than the Thunderbird netting, but either way, whatever you choose works really well for grazing your animals, rotationally grazing your animals for locking up a garden bed so that chickens don't get into there. It's been really good for the dogs. So we've had a few issues with our dogs lately chasing bikes up and down the road. So just putting that netting or that electric fencing around our property just reinforces it and keeps them inside. And, it gives them a little shock if they do try to overcome it, and that teaches them pretty quick to stay back.
Yeah. And is it pretty affordable, the netting?
I mean, it's definitely an investment.
Yeah.
But it's an investment worth making because you'll use it again and again in so many different circumstances. So I think the netting was $300 for 15 meters.
Pretty good.
The Energizer was about $300, $400 as well. The S100 was a bit dearer, but we worked with Gallagher, so they gave us a discount, which was really lovely. And then the reel, so the electric reel was, I think, $200 or so, but that's like 500 meters or something crazy.
Okay.
So if you've got huge spaces, it's just an investment worth making.
Yeah,
and if you've got
definitely.
animals and you want to be responsible for the land and move them around so that they're not destroying one area too quickly, it's just, it's great.
Yeah, and you can actually see it well if it's dark or it's
exactly.
a very bright colour. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And super easy to use, like just quick to set up, quick to turn on, quick to turn off if you need to, and just go to.
Yeah.
Definitely something we'll be putting into storage while we move away.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, another one I had on my list, this seems a little bit obvious to start a garden, but I have seeds on here.
We love obvious.
Yeah. But just finding like a company that aligns with your values to buy your seeds from. And I'd recommend obviously just kind of trialing different companies, seeing what you like. But I get a lot of questions about where I buy my seeds from. And it's a decision that I've made because I've done research on what companies I like and what kinds of seeds I want to be planting. But definitely I'd recommend just doing a bit of research because there are Australian companies like Eden Seeds.
I love Eden Seeds.
Yeah, they're great. And Green Patch as well up in Queensland that do organic heirloom varieties of seeds if you're interested in that. Heirloom is basically varieties of plants that it's always difficult to explain, but they're old varieties, often open pollinated. So when you save the seeds of that, they'll be true to whatever the fruit or plant is, and they haven't been like genetically modified or anything like that.
Or if they have, which genetically modified can just mean cross-pollinating two flowers together.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean having to do it in a lab,
Yes.
although a lot of the times that is how it's done.
Yeah.
But then the heirloom comes in once that's been grown again and again and again, and you get the same variety, which is really important for market gardening.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's great to, well, it's just interesting as well. Like you get different varieties. So it's not the stock standard varieties that you'll find in Coles and Woolies, which, so there's different types of seed. You can also get F1 varieties, which are in that kind of development stage of the genetics to make them into a stable plant that will regularly be the same thing. But yeah, I really personally love heirloom varieties, so I kind of stick to those companies. I know the seed collection also does have some heirloom varieties if you're looking for a budget company to just start your seed collection. I've definitely bought from them before. What's another, where else do you buy your seeds
Those
from?
are mainly
Those ones?
my places. Like I love Eden Seeds. I've always bought my seeds from them, even down in the suburbs. And the best thing about them, them as well as we've got a local seed savers. So people in the area here, they collect seeds. They may have grown them from Eden Seeds and then save the seeds from their own plants. And the benefit of buying your seeds as local to you as you can is that a lot of those plants grow really well in the conditions of the area and acclimatize to the soils and the environment. So if you can find a local company, like I know around you've got Whitbird Environmental.
Yeah, I was just about to mention Jeff at Whitbird Environmental, who we talk about a lot, but that's just because we do work with him. But he's actually starting a seed farm, which not a lot of people are doing, where he's growing all different native plants and veggies for the south coast of New South Wales to then be able to save seeds from that to then sell to the public so that they're a little bit more tailored to this area. So for people living in Sydney, they're going to grow really, really well versus something that may have been more established in like Tasmania. And then you try and grow it, you know, up in Brisbane or somewhere like that. And it's just different conditions. Granted, like a lot of these seed companies will have like trials everywhere. So they do trial at first. But there's nothing that compares to having seeds that are established in your area that you're growing. Yeah.
And the best way you can figure out if you have local seeds or not is just to go into your local nursery. And oftentimes they'll have a seed saver organization or locals coming in and potentially selling their seeds there. Going to farmers markets as well is a really good place to see local seeds. Some people, even instead of selling you packets of seeds, local people in farmers markets will actually sell you the seedlings. So I know there's a lady down in our farmers market that, you know, will start a bunch of seeds like cucumbers and squashes and tomatoes and all those things that we love. And it just takes away that uncertainty of will this seed come up or not. You can just get the seedlings and they're still local. Yeah.
And if you're brand new to gardening, I would definitely recommend trialing out like a seed subscription like Whitbird Environmental has, where Jeff puts together like a pack of different seeds that are tailored to that kind of the time in the year when you can plant them, and then you can just trial them out, see how you go if you're brand new to it. Just trialing out different companies and seeing what works well, because you will notice that different companies will have different amounts of seeds in your seed packet. So if you are like more of a market gardener or you're growing a lot, you might find that some actually have limited seeds in the packet. Other companies will have a lot more. So just trialing it out and finding something that aligns with your ethics is what I'd recommend.
And that's why I've really loved Eden Seeds as well as the Bega Valley Seed Savers, is that they're always really generous with how many seeds you actually get. And so you don't open up your packet and go, oh, like 8 bits of corn. Like that's all I can grow. Because they don't always, like some seed companies don't advertise how many seeds are actually in there. Eden Seeds is really transparent, where it says like there's 500 grams of seeds or there's 200 grams of seeds, and you might not know how much that is, but it comes out to quite a lot compared to like 1 gram. And you
definitely
get 2 seeds.
Unless,
I mean, I've never got 2, but
no. Unless you're like a more flower farmer and market gardener, there's definitely other places to get seeds that are more wholesale. I know I'm going to try buying from, I think it's High Sun, to get some flower seeds. But there's a lot of other, and RP seeds I think is another one, that sell them at a like larger quantity. So just definitely do some research, because there's so many seed companies out there rather than just the big ones, and also Bunnings and getting them from there.
The ones that have the most advertising money. Exactly. So going along with a garden and seeds, if you're planting lots of seeds and you're planting lots of different vegetables and fruits, you're going to have to learn to preserve, because otherwise you're going to end up with a lot of food waste, or trying to stuff yourself with food for a little while and then not having it into the future. So one thing that definitely is worth investing in as soon as you can, and this can be done in lots of different ways, is just preserving equipment. And I don't mean like big pressure pots and water bath systems or anything like that. All you really need is one big pot. And this can be one that you use for stews and soups in your house, and also lots and lots of glass jars. You can get them really cheap from op shops. Lots of people buy them, like I know I buy them from Big W. They just have like simple jars that you can use for jams and things like that. And you can easily save jars from peanut butter cans. You can save peanut butter jars, and like tomato sauce and passata jars as well, and just give them a really good clean, and they seal up really nicely and easily as well. So you're going to need a lot of that if you're going to have a big garden. Preserving
was on my list as well of things. I really I like, I think it's Ball, the company that makes the one that I have, but I'm sure there's like other ones. Jars. But they have like it's like a really large tong thing, and it's got like rubber on the bottom, so it can grip onto the jars when you take it out of the water. And I found that is one tool that's really handy. They're like $10 or so, but that's one that I've found is definitely useful.
Yeah, I definitely have one of those as well, and it's just safer as well.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've tried to use like a towel or something to grab the jars out and they just fall back down, and so just save yourself the trouble, get yourself something proper. Even a funnel can be really useful as well if you've got really like small rimmed jars. Funnel's been good too. I love preserving equipment. I love preserving.
Yeah. I'm definitely trying to get more into it. I really would like to find some good quality reusable plastic bags, like Ziploc bags, which I do reuse the ones that we have, just like the sandwich bags, but I want like thicker ones that I can reuse.
Well, actually, Aldi had these silicone ones that we bought a couple of years back, and I think they bring them back every now and again in like the middle aisle, which everyone loves to have a little look at. I think it's not often that I buy anything, but I just love looking at stuff.
It's a wonderland in there sometimes. Sometimes there's some amazing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like these silicone bags. If you can invest in those every now and again when they're on special somewhere, they're definitely worth it. And you can just keep like beans in them to freeze, or like rhubarb, apple pieces. Freezing is a great way to preserve, nice and easy.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you do a lot of freezing, and we've talked about it in a previous episode.
Yeah, we freeze a lot. Our freezer is just full of tomatoes right now, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But yeah,
while we're in the kitchen, I might as well bring up a few of my favorite kitchen gadgets that because we do a lot of cooking, it goes hand in hand with homesteading and gardening. And some of my go-to kitchen items are things like a really good quality chopping board and knives. I know that's so simple, but so many people have like Kmart knives and they're dull and they're trying to like cut through tomato and it like putting so much force on it. Like there's more injuries that happen from dull, crappy knives than from really nice, sharp tools. Sam has this like cleaver. I'm not sure the company that sells it. I'll have to drop it in the links down below. But this beautiful cleaver, it always stays sharp. We've got a honer, which is the way you can sharpen it. And just a sharp knife slices through food so quickly and easily that you're never having to put all this force behind it that's going to chop your fingers off. You just got to be careful when you're cleaning it more than anything.
Yeah, I never knew what goes into making a good quality knife, but I watched a video of there's this guy and he's got all these different types of vans and cars and things. His name is Maverick. He's a big YouTuber. And he went to Japan and made his own knife. And it was just like blending the two different types of metal of the different areas of the knife, and then he sharpened it all. And it looked amazing, and it kind of like brought back that appreciation of what goes into good quality products and how like, you do spend a lot of money, but they're really well handcrafted. It's something that we don't have a lot of good quality knives. I'm trying to think whether we do or not, but it's something on my list.
You only need one really good quality knife, and you'll see that you just keep coming back to it. Like it's worth the investment.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that, or I can just go to Japan and make my own.
I know.
Maybe one day.
Just getting to Japan is expensive enough.
I'll have to make a sinking fund for that probably.
No, that would be amazing. So I think our knife is made from Damascus steel. Which is really lightweight. It changes color with acids and things. Like it's really incredible. So it's almost like the metal is still alive, and there's something really special to that. We do also have like a wok that is made from Damascus steel as well, which is really good to use on open fire, like if you take it camping. But it's also really lightweight. It heats up quickly. It maintains the heat really fast. And so when you're cooking with it, it's really useful as well. And another thing that's really good for cooking all the homestead meals is cast iron. And I know you've talked before about wanting cast iron as well. It's something we've invested in, whether we've inherited it from family or we've just scoped out op shops until we found it. It's heavy, And I know that deters a lot of people, but that heaviness means that when it heats up in the oven or on the stovetop, it maintains that heat really well and actually allows you to have a deeper sear on your meat or on your vegetables. It allows you to therefore have more flavor because it's that, is it Maillard effect? I don't know. The browning
okay,
is all the flavor on your food. And the best thing about cast iron is that it lasts a really long time. It's really easy to clean. If you oil it and maintain it, it's really simple to clean because all you got to do is like wipe everything off and that's it. Like,
so you don't use like dish soap on
I mean,
it,
we do,
you do? Okay.
but like compared to trying to like scrub like a normal pan or like a stainless steel pan, like the cast iron cleans up so quick and easy. And it's quite easy to maintain. Like every now and again you just oil it and put it into a high heat oven, and that just seals everything in so that it doesn't start to rust.
What kind of oil do you use?
Just normal oil. I think a high heat oil, so something like a rice oil is what we have. Rice bran oil.
Yeah, we'd like to get cast iron. The only thing, we've got like an electric stovetop and it's that kind of like glass material, whatever it is. So we have to be really gentle if we use cast iron, and so we don't really use it. Just because, I don't know, it's just so much easier to use it on a gas stove where you've got...
Swap out your cooktop.
Well, I'd like to, but then we have to get gas and that's a whole thing. But eventually, whenever we do have our forever home, it's something that's a no-brainer. Like, we'll definitely have gas. Particularly when you're living out in the country, it's just so much easier in case you do have a blackout or power out.
Yeah, and it cooks more evenly. Like you can control it a lot better, so you don't end up like overcooking or undercooking your meals too. Ending up with like soggy chips or something.
Yeah.
Did you want to fire away with one of yours next?
Well, I suppose it's kind of related to the kitchen and bringing stuff in from the garden, but I have like a basket on my list. I'd recommend going to the op shop and buying like at least 2 or 3 baskets.
For harvesting, you mean?
Harvesting, yeah. So different sizes to either bring in tomatoes or cucumbers, maybe not pumpkins, that's more for the wheelbarrow. But the amount of times I've just been so annoyed because I've just been taking bowls out from the kitchen and then I fill it up because it's not large enough for all the veggies, and then it's just too difficult to take that in with my camera and everything else that I have outside. Just a basket is definitely an essential for me, and I have 2 different sizes. One's a really kind of small one for like herbs and things, and then I have a larger one, and I picked these up for only a few dollars from the op shop. And like just a good old cane basket. It's definitely an essential for me.
Certainly, definitely. Another thing for me is a deep freezer. So because we raise animals for meat, but even just freezing food like rhubarb and apples, as I've said earlier, even like lemon juice in ice cube trays, if you just use your normal freezer, you can make do with it for a while. But I mean, when you're doing larger scale meat production and food production for yourself and your family, you really do need something a little bit larger with more space. I mean, at one point we had 3 deep freezers. We've now cut back to 2, with one being smaller and one being larger. And of course, we're reducing the amount of meat we have from our land at the moment. So we're not using it as much, but like when that's full, having that food security, knowing that you've got a freezer full of food and you don't have to go to the shops for weeks and months if you don't want to, is just game changing like that. There's nothing better than food security.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good one. Another one I had on my list was cardboard.
Oh, I love it.
That's an essential for me for my garden. I do mainly no-dig garden beds, and so I am taking all the cardboard we get from deliveries, from friends, from the tip. I'll even go to the tip and try not to dive into the bin because I've had a few looks from the people that work at the tip now, just ones that are just on the top. But saving your cardboard, even just like anything that, like if you have a wood burning fireplace or you like to have fires outside, just keeping all of like your cardboard boxes from food or anything like that. We save all of that, and it's just really, really useful for the garden because it allows me to expand my space at a rate that is sustainable for me as well, because building garden beds is so much work to establish garden beds. So if I can just do like a meter or two every time I save up some cardboard, pop it on the grass. I will sometimes broad fork the grass first, put the cardboard down, a bit of worm castings, some grass clippings and mulch, let that sit for a few months, and then it's ready to plant in.
It's so good, especially at this time of the year in autumn and winter, when your garden either has been overwhelmed with weeds or just needs a rest. Cardboard is a game changer.
Yeah, and the grass is really, once you cut it back, it doesn't really grow too fast now, so it's great to lay the cardboard down now because it's just going to take less time to break down. All the worms can do their thing and create more gardens. So,
and the best thing about cardboard too is rain can still get through into the garden, so you're not preventing, like if you put a tarp on, then that space is going to be very dry. But the cardboard allows rain to still come in. This causes a lot of the grass seeds and the weeds to still germinate, but because they're not getting any light, they end up dying, and that's all feeding your garden.
Yeah.
It's like free compost.
Exactly. Unless you do want to kill the grass sooner, then I do also have tarps that I use, but that's more for the flower farm, which is a larger area that just would take way too much cardboard, and I rotationally move them around after I've worked the bed, and if I haven't got all the weeds out, I'll just pop the tarp over, let it sit for a few months, and then I can come through and broad fork it again, and it's just more organic matter that's been added into the soil from breaking down all of those weeds. Yeah,
so good. So I'm bringing us back over to talking about animals and meat production, because I mean that's mainly been our goal and the thing we've been working on, so that's the best advice that I can give as far as equipment. So we raise our own meat chickens. We've also raised our own pigs. But when it comes to the meat chickens especially, we're raising 50, sometimes 100 at a time. And we will continue doing that once we settle on land in the future. And one of the best investments in equipment that we've made is a chicken plucker. I know some people debate whether they need it or not, whether they can just do it by hand. But honestly, it took us plucking one rooster in the suburbs to realize that when we moved into the country and we were raising a lot more, that a plucker was going to be essential. It gets the job done in 10 seconds. It's really effective, really quick, and when you already have a huge day ahead of you, like it's very draining emotionally and physically, that just having equipment like that to make the job faster and easier. It's super quick to clean. I think I got ours online from, I'm not even sure where. Again, I'm terrible at remembering like brand names and things. But we got ours for maybe $600 or $700, which is, again, a really big investment. But like the amount of time and energy that it saves is definitely worth it. Another thing that goes along with that is a massive pot. And we actually found ours, like it was really lucky. We were walking through our suburban streets in Victoria, and we have, what is it called when people get to throw out all their rubbish out on the land strip?
Yeah, I know.
Hard rubbish? Hard rubbish. I think that's what you call it.
Okay.
So during hard rubbish periods of time, people just throw out their junk, and then a truck comes like after a week and picks it all up and takes it into landfill. So this is a really good opportunity just to like scout out the streets and find like gold mines. And while we were doing this one day, we found like, I guess the people must have had like a cafe or a restaurant that they had at one point. And so there was just like these massive pots, and they were a little bit dirty, but it's fine. Give it a clean, give it a really good scrub, and they have been so useful. Like I don't even know where you will get those kinds of pots affordably anywhere around. Like I'm sure in a restaurant shop. Yeah, and so that's definitely something we'll be tucking away with our friends and family, because we know that we're going to need it, you know, for the future with our chicken butcherings. They've also been really good for making really big pots of like dog food or like, you know, they're kitchen grade, so you can use
Yeah.
them for almost anything. And just having those big pots, the chicken plucker just makes that day go faster, easier. You're not having to refill a little pot with water to, loosen the feathers on the chickens and things like that. So yeah, it's just well worth it.
Yeah, cool. We're talking about pots. Going back to the garden.
No, it's good.
Just having a good variety of different pots and trays to start your seedlings. And I'm telling you now, don't go and buy these first. Have a look at your tip, local rubbish dump area. That's what a tip is if you're from elsewhere. That's what I call it.
It's not just great tips and tricks for you.
Exactly. Or go to Bunnings or a nursery and just ask them. Ask them nicely, have you got some extra trays or pots that you can use? Because that's where I've got most of mine, that I have got different tube stock, really large trays for all of the flower farm. All of that came from the tip that they have this area where you can like buy stuff that they save. They kind of like sift through all of the larger things and have like a yard where you can buy them for really, really cheap. So that's where I got all of those from. And the trays, I just get them from the nursery. Every time I buy a plant, I see that they have a big stack of them there. And I'm just like, oh, can I just maybe have one of those to take the plants? And they're more than happy to give them out.
Yeah, because they get a lot of them themselves. So they're
Exactly.
asking you to take them at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't take more than I need, obviously. But if you can just build up a selection that works for however you sow your seeds, and then just have a little system, I would definitely invest in that rather than buying them all. Unless you absolutely can't find them, then I would probably recommend going to like farm shops or landscaping companies or online where you can buy them in bulk if you need them that many quantities, just because they're a lot cheaper as well. Yeah.
I know an alternative, and I don't have this on my list, but an alternative to pots and things is, have you seen people use, I think they're called soil blockers?
Yeah.
And so if you make up like a wet mix of soil, you just put this tool into it and it creates little squares or cubes of soil that then you put your plants into. I know that was something that I really wanted to invest in, but I just never got into creating seedlings. Like I just direct sow my seeds, but that could be a really good thing to look into as well.
Yeah, I'd like to look into it. I've just got to try and get the mix right, because it's got like a little indent in the soil block that you can just put your seeds into, and then you can sprinkle seeds over. But you do have to get the right mixture of making sure that it all stays together.
Yeah.
There's soil blockers, and then I think there's this new one that's come out called a Swift blocker that a lot of flower farmers and market gardeners are using, and it's a similar kind of thing, but it's a massive tray, and then it's just got this big metal indent. I don't know, thing that you
like almost like a
press
stamp,
down.
like a cookie
You stamp it
cutter where
down.
you put all the soil in and then.
Yeah, and then it kind of falls out the bottom. And so if you're looking at really large seed sowing, that might be an investment. I know they're pretty pricey, but for a market garden or flower farm, they're probably worth it. I don't know if they're in Australia yet, but it's something that I'll definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely a good investment to make. I only have one more thing on my list, and I'm bringing it back to food. It seems like those are just my go-to gadgets. And this is a digital thermometer. At first, I was really skeptical when Sam was like, "Yep, I'm getting a digital thermometer. It's game-changing." Like, a friend of mine used it during a camping trip, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, just another gadget. Like, why do we need it? We've got like those little metal thermometers to check food. Whatever, get it. You want to try it out? We'll give it a go." And now I'm a convert. Like, it is so useful. We do a lot of cooking, slow meats. You can poke it into the meat. You can put it into your oven to check the temperature of the oven. So if you're trying to rise bread at the right temperature or ferment, it's incredible. You can use it, like in outdoor cooking. You can use it in the home. It's just, I'm honestly a convert. It sounds so simple and like something you might not need or you can do without, but even for frying oil as well, with making donuts or with making some of the food that I love to make, allows you to maintain temperature properly because you can see it, and it allows you to make the most use out of what you're cooking. So yeah,
Good idea.
that's me.
I only had one more that I thought of while we were chatting, and that was bringing it back to the garden, a knee pad.
Ooh.
I thought that I bought it from Bunnings. It's just like a rubber kind of mat, and it's a few dollars from Bunnings, but you can get more fancy ones. And I thought I'll just get it. If I use it, I use it, but I use it every day in the garden.
Really?
Yeah, just your health and physical posture. When you're planting 100 seedlings at a time, you get so sore, and just bending down every time you've got to plant a plant. I would much rather bend down once and then just scrounge out on the ground, just rummaging around with my knee pad rather than getting up and down. It sounds like it's not a big deal, but it is. And I'm so sore after the day. So I would much rather just be down there planting everything at once. And I have previously just done it on the, just had my knees on the ground. It really does wreck your pants, so I wouldn't recommend.
Oh, that's why my pants have holes in them. I did wonder that.
Yeah, so particularly when you're wearing leggings, which I pretty much wear every day, I just would much prefer a knee pad. So yeah, that's my last essential / recommendation.
Yeah, I love that. And hopefully that is what this list has kind of given you all. It's just those go-to things that maybe you don't realize you need, or that, if you're trying to figure out, do I want to go in this direction or this direction? They're just those things that are tried and true by us, that we stick by. And some might sound really simple, like buckets and baskets and knee pads, but makes such a huge difference when you're doing this long term and you're trying to make sure you're being sustainable for both your health and also, your ability to keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
And enjoy it.
Yeah. I am probably not going to like myself later for saying this, but I will try and link a few of the things we've spoken about. Yeah, just in case you're interested. But if there is anything that we've covered and I haven't linked, just send us a message on Instagram, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube page. We do have a YouTube page if you're listening to this, where we're physically filming ourselves in this beautiful background. So you can also comment on there. We've also got a Buy Me a Coffee page if you want to support us financially, help us pay for all of the cups of yummy tea and fuel that we need to visit each other to produce these episodes.
And the seeds to plant so we can talk about them in the future.
Make content.
That's it. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. We're really looking forward to getting back into it and getting you lots of really great conversations out there.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye.